So, Cheri, what keeps people stuck financially and how do we break those patterns? Right? So there's so many
Mhm.
people that are out there, they feel like they're working hard and they're doing, some of the right things and they just don't seem to get ahead. And
Right,
so today we're talking about how people, might be stuck financially, some of the mistakes they're making, but also, the good news is there's a way out, right? And so I'm Cary Smith, and I'm sitting here with Cheri Turner. Cheri and I are both with Client First Capital, and so Cheri, I'll start us off with the first one. So we have six of them, and so the first one is spending before saving.
mhm,
And this is so common. People get their paycheck, they look at the things that they need to spend and want to spend on, and they spend first, as opposed to saving a little bit of it first. And
yes,
there's a very basic financial principle that says you should spend less than you earn. And basically that's this just said a different way.
that's
And because you should, if you're spending less than you earn, you have the ability to save,
right,
but furthermore, you should take that savings out first, right?
yep,
So, you'll hear people say, pay yourself first. You'll
mhm,
hear it expressed a lot of different ways, but save before you spend.
right,
And that's just really, one of the very fundamental principles that so many people just don't live by.
right. Yeah, and when you can automate that as well, getting that just sort of done and set up ahead of time helps you all that much more.
You actually forget about it when you automate it, right? You
Exactly.
forget that that money is being taken out. You don't miss it. After a while, it just becomes a part of the way that you function. And it's yes, that's a really good tip.
Right, right. So another mistake that some people make is they'll have a budget, but not an actual plan. So this is a subtle trick that tricks a lot of people. And you might track your budget, your expenses, you'll have a spreadsheet, or even one of these great new apps out there that helps you to track everything for you. So you feel like you're doing all the right things, but it's not the same thing as having a financial plan. A budget tells you what happened with your money, and a plan tells you what's going to happen next.
Mhm.
Basically, your budget is a tool, but your plan is a blueprint. And wealthy people don't just watch where their money goes, but they decide ahead of time where it's going to go. And so they start with their goals. And then you want to reverse engineer essentially your savings, your investing decisions to match those goals that you're working towards. Because the truth is that you can be great at tracking your money, but still be stuck. So don't just have a budget, but really make sure that you build that financial plan so that you are building your goals.
That's really good advice, Cherie. And so many people just don't take that second step of having a plan, either
Yeah.
creating one on themselves or working with someone to create a financial plan.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is just keeping too much cash. And so let's just say you're doing the first one, you're saving before you're spending, you're doing that well. And then, you do the second one, you not only have a budget, but you have a plan. And because you're doing those things effectively, now you are noticing some cash starting to accumulate, and maybe in your checking account or your savings account. And as I've heard you say many times before, every dollar needs to have a purpose,
Yeah.
right? And so you need to make sure that that money is working for you, and that money has a purpose, and it's not just sitting in a checking or a savings account earning very little.
Right.
And let's get that money to work for you. So if you are starting to have some success, you're starting to see some cash accumulate, make sure you put that cash to work for you. Don't keep too much cash on hand.
Absolutely. Good point, Carrie. Another thing that oftentimes people do is they'll think too small. When say you're taking a look at your budget, and a lot of people will ask themselves, "Well, how can I save $5 on that latte that I'm buying?" And some people will obsess over that, but never stop to look at it from a different perspective of, well, how can I grow my income by 500 this month versus cutting that $5 out on that latte? So being sure that we really, you know, stretch out of the small thinking and look for ways to create leverage within our financial situation, ways to use our time, our skills, and our money to create more value in a way that will focus on scale and not scarcity, not just cutting expenses, but asking yourself, how can you earn more and invest smarter and create additional income streams?
Wow, such good advice, Cheri. A lot of us, we get into a habit and we just follow those habits. And even when we're trying to do things, you use the example of how can I, maybe I don't spend $5 a day on my latte, which I'm not even sure you can get a latte for $5 anymore, right?
A pretty small one.
That's right. But when you really spend time thinking, right, just really thinking about your other activities and what are things that you could do to increase your income, increase your effectiveness, right? That's really where the big gains may be. And it just takes probably I would say just a little commitment of your time and your thought process, but on a consistent basis, right? Okay. So we also see, and this is something we see, especially when we get new clients coming to us, that people are just avoiding risk altogether, right? They are everything's in CDs or a super savings account or something of that nature, and maybe they're feeling good because the interest rate they're earning maybe is slightly outpacing inflation or whatever the case may be. But I will tell you that your risk needs to match what your goals are, and so but that's a mistake that we see people make all too often. And basically in most cases they're just leaving some really good returns on the table, and accepting something much lower. And so for most of these people, even if they're risk adverse, there's still an amount of risk that they can take that's a little bit higher than what they're taking and still sleep well at night. Absolutely. And in the long run, they will likely perform a lot better.
Right. Absolutely. Kind of that subtle balance between your risk tolerance and your risk capacity.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well said.
Yeah. So there's one other big one, Cary, and that is individuals who try to go it alone. Most people wait too long to ask for help. A lot of people love to DIY things nowadays, especially with YouTube and everything out there. But Googling advice and cobbling together tips from podcasts and social media isn't the same as true insight, right? So people who are really wealthy truly bring in professionals early on. They typically have financial advisors, CPAs, their estate planning attorneys, not because they can't manage their money, but because they know the cost of trying to do it all themselves. And they understand that their time has value and that the expert advice doesn't just protect their wealth, it actually accelerates it. So if you think about it, you wouldn't perform surgery on yourself. So why would you gamble with your own financial future in the same way, right? So getting financial help isn't a weakness, it's actually a wealth building strategy.
Cheri, I'm gonna just build on that a little bit. You mentioned YouTube, but there's some really good tools online that can help a person with their financial planning or their retirement planning or their savings or their investing or whatever it is that they're trying to get better at. But I've talked to a lot of clients and potential clients that have gone those routes. And if you're an amateur and you're using tools online and you're learning online, you're still an amateur. And now you're a better informed amateur. And so I do encourage people to learn everything you can and take advantage of those tools. But we do find that people get better results when they're working with someone who does this for a living. If it's financial planning or financial counseling or asset management or tax strategies, the results are better with working with a professional over a well-informed amateur.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Okay, so I think we covered the 6 that we wanted to cover. So why don't you wrap us up?
Yeah. So just some things to remember are just that building wealth isn't about being lucky. It's about thinking differently, acting intentionally, and avoiding the traps that are keeping a lot of people stuck.
Okay, very good. All right, so if you're watching this and you found this video helpful, please give it a like. It helps other people find our content. Also, if you are someone who is, planning financially or starting to build some wealth or need some help with this process, you can get a free financial consultation with someone on our team. Just reach out to us. You can find us at clientfirstcap.com. And from there, you can either give us a call or schedule an appointment. And so I appreciate you for joining. Again, you can find us at clientfirstcap.com. Thank you.